Welcome into the ASUG News broadcast studio. My name is Tom Wilgum. I'm co-editorial director of asugnews.com. Delighted to have in two gentlemen. We're going to talk about BI4. Keith Putt, you are from Precor and you are the director of IT.
Correct.
Welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Glad to be
And Doug Turner, you are the CEO of Mantis Technology Group.
That's
Welcome.
correct. Thank you.
You guys are both located in the Pacific Northwest, and glad you could make it down to beautiful Orlando here. You brought a little rain with you, but that's okay. We won't hold against you. BI4 is such obviously a very hot topic. Doug, you are on the front lines. Keith, you are working with it, coming up with strategy. Can you talk just a little bit first about your initial approach and how Precor has approached BI4 and what's been the overall guiding strategy for you?
Sure. With BusinessObjects 4.0, the opportunity to have a complete solution to complement our BW environment was really critical with choosing the platform. From an implementation standpoint, BusinessObjects, coming from other environments of previous companies where we've rolled out a new reporting solution, it's one of those things that it takes time to evolve within the company. It's a big change management piece. And so really taking off small pieces that you can bite, things that are very actionable, measurable for the business, yet reaches a broad audience within the business so they can start to understand and educate themselves on the platform and the impact it can have within their daily work. So often times the business knows a decision that they need to make or some information that they could use to make a decision, but if they don't have ready access to it, they maybe don't get that information.
Right.
So that's really critical. And then the other piece is to really look at where are the things we can do in that initial implementation to free up time. So there's certain things that maybe from a finance group, they're in charge of report distribution, munching the data together and preparing it for distribution. What are those things that we can get off of their plate to free up their time so they can go actually analyze something and make decisions?
Right, that's actually what it's all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're actually kind of in an interesting story in that you were not a previous BusinessObjects customer. You had worked with it, but so you're rolling out BI4 brand new, right? The envy, I guess, of some people who have some 3.x legacy environments, you think? Yeah,
absolutely. I came from an environment of a 3x, and actually my experience started all the way back with the full client back in the 4.5.0 range back in the early 2000s. And so coming into a company where you had ECC6, you had a BW environment that was fairly mature, and you're really just looking for a solution to be able to distribute the information, bring together multiple data sources, and get the information in the hands of the user.
Right. Doug, let's hear a little bit about what you're on the front lines out there working with a lot of customers at Mantis. Can you talk a little bit about how customers are approaching those ones that are actually on 3.x and are thinking about moving up? What's the kind of word on the street that you're hearing how they're approaching 4.0?
Well, I think that everybody has the question, first of all, is 4.0 platform that I should be interested in, right? And then how do you do migration effectively, as Keith said, in the least disruptive way from a business perspective that puts people in a position where they can take advantage of incremental improvements as well as the underlying technological improvements that SAP has made. And from our perspective, working with multiple customers on those migration plans, I really think 4.0 is a no-brainer for people. It improves not only the underlying infrastructure and technology by integrating the legacy BW and BusinessObjects stack, but also just brings new user interface, new real-time access to the data, and the mobility side of things is really big for a lot of customers.
Are you seeing more customers coming in net new, not having the BusinessObjects, or is it a lot more upgrades, or what?
Well, I mean, I think those are two separate questions, right? You've got the existing SAP customer base that really should be looking at 4.0 as a migration option, but then the new customers that you look at really are net add customers to SAP. So the more SAP is successful in terms of expanding their footprint in the business intelligence space, the more new customers are going to come on, like Precor, as a new implementation of BI 4.0 rather than an upgrade.
Can you talk a little bit about, we talked on the phone beforehand about the integration with your parent company, or the company owns you, and business warehouse, things like that. Have you been able to get the value that when you initially signed, okay, we're going to go to BI4, that you were promised, or that the salesman came in? Can you talk about some of the benefits first, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the challenges?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the reasons for the BI4 platform was the ability to connect multiple data sources. So while we're an SAP shop and we do run BW, we have other systems around PLM and Agile, or we run Salesforce.com in the Service Cloud. And so really looking to be able to pull all the information together. One of our initial needs was to replace this manual process that the finance department was doing as far as taking information out of SAP, bringing that into an Access databases, and then reporting on. And so we've made really good progress on automating those steps and starting to free up their time so they can look at the data. The integration, we have basic integration done with BW. We're now starting to analyze the performance there and potentially look at the use of OpenHub as a ability ETL tool to extract the information out of BW, bring it down through data services, and start to populate some of the, basically creating a data mart outside of BW for certain types of information.
What would be the business benefit, and what would the end user see out of that kind of
Well,
plan?
there's certain information that from a time perspective when you're running reports based upon a certain date range in which you really have to run the report maybe say 12 times in order to have the relative data for your KPIs as far as what your performance was at that time. And so the ability for us to extract that information and capture it offline and store that aggregate so that we're only running the data once each month to extract that new information, and then we're aggregating it with the previous 12 months is a way. There's lots of ways you can do that. You certainly could do it within BW. There's not always one solution that you have to go down that path.
Right.
So it's just a matter of what the resources you have and what your skill sets are on your teams.
Right. Doug, we talked a little bit about the considerations that you think someone watching this, ASUG member, who are thinking about going to 4.0, what's the top 2 or 3 considerations that you think customers should weigh when they're thinking about it?
Sure. There's a very practical matter, and then there's kind of an innovative matter, right? And the practical matter is anytime you're working on a technology like BusinessObjects, which provides enterprise support for your business to make decisions to improve the overall business operations, you have to look at the effectiveness of my ability to get technical support, to get people working on the platform, to do the kinds of things that we need to do. And SAP is not unique. When you call tech support, one of the things they're going to ask is, what version do you want? And their efforts and the customer's efforts should be focused on the most recent. I'm not necessarily talking about bleeding edge, beta, before it's available, but if it's out and available, you're really going to get your biggest bang for the buck in terms of tying both tech support from SAP, customer support, services from an outside firm such as ours, and your own internal staff to focus on that most recent version. So as a very practical matter, there's that. The second thing is, and one of the things that we talk to customers about is, from an innovative perspective, how do you not just do what you've always done? How do you ask new questions for the business? How do you put people in a position to ask questions of data and make decisions in a way that they couldn't do before, right? Take mobile, for example, right? If you have somebody that needs to walk around and make decisions, the ability now to carry an iPad with you and look at the data in a real-time way and make a decision on the spot rather than having to say, oh, now I need to go back to my headquarters office and sit down at my desk and then maybe I get distracted before that. Before I can do that, right, those things now are available with 4.0 and they work and are serious business considerations as to why people should really move to the platform.
Yeah. Training is a topic we don't hear too much about, but I'm wondering, as SAP touts the usability of BusinessObjects 4.0, how was your approach to that? And then Doug, maybe you could follow up, what you're seeing companies who are doing things really well with that.
Yeah, from a training perspective, I'm a big believer in IT not holding all the keys to the systems, and empowering the business and the end users and creating those power users across the business who best understand the data and what the needs of the data are. So we are educating the power users, identifying those key users and departments, and ramping them up on the systems and those capabilities. And then as we release new data sets, we're actually doing hour to hour and a half sessions with those groups to show them the data so they understand what the layout, the mechanisms, what are the things that maybe we made some decisions behind the scenes for them on, as well as in how they can use the tool, how can they distribute the reports, and consume the information.
Is the ultimate goal to get them to do a lot of this stuff on their own? I mean, would that be, make your job easier, I'm sure, but.
Absolutely. From the IT perspective, the data just needs to be there. We need to have our jobs run efficiently, the data processes overnight, so it's reliable, and business knows what they're going to get.
Right, great. Doug, anything you wanted to add to that?
I mean, Keith said it, right, that you have to put the information in the hands of the business users that are making the decisions to run the business. And 4.0 is a huge stride. The last thing that you want is for a technology platform to be available for people and for them to not use it, right? It's a wasted investment. It consumes time and budget and resources that you just don't have. You have to make changes that are effective to the business, putting 4.0 in the hands of the business users is now easy. It's something that shortens the training time and the ramp up time in terms of being able to be effective using the software. And we're finding customers very quickly coming up to speed and expanding the footprint of using the tool in that self-service kind of reporting mechanism that Keith talked about.
Mm-hmm. How about integration? I mean, I know we had talked a little bit about you connected back to your, is it Germany? Was it Germany, the headquarters?
Yep, Munich, Germany.
Yeah, so how has that gone integration-wise? Has there been headaches or challenges there, or has it been pretty smooth?
It's been, I think, fairly smooth from what the product has said it could do. Mm-hmm. We certainly have the political challenges and the resource scheduling that you have with any subsidiary with a parent company. Right. But I think the platform has performed as expected. Our ability to get in and pull out the Salesforce.com data through data services and merge that with data that we're pulling from BW, and to be able to combine those two data sets for reporting, that's huge. That's something we didn't have before.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I mean, that's what a lot of companies like to have that functionality.
Well, and the data services piece, I think, was a critical component to our decision to go with BusinessObjects, in that we needed something to be able to integrate those different platforms. And so you certainly had options to do an IBM cast iron or some of the other products, but the ability to stay within the SAP stack, knowing that they're going to be putting the R&D dollars into it, and the integration and the performance is only going to get better over time.
Right.
That's an investment that we were willing to make, and a path that's it's going to be great for the company.
Is this your first Sapphire and ASUG annual conference, or have you been before?
I think this is my fourth.
Oh, your fourth.
So,
I'm wondering, hearing all the Hana buzz here, is that even on your radar screen? Are you thinking about that? I mean, I know you just got that going, but I'm just curious if that is appealing to you in any ways.
Yeah, I think it's a difference from last year in the sense that last year it really felt very much like, all right, this is really for the big boys who really have a lot of money to spend and a ton of data. And you start to look at some of the real-time analytics that are coming out of it and understanding how computing cost is coming down from a performance or cost perspective to relative to performance. You start to see where, gosh, being able to ask those real-time questions and have the data just return back to you is really neat. Right. So, yeah, it's something I think is 100 times more interesting to me this year than last year.
Right.
In the sense that, you can start to make those connections and see the benefits to the business.
Right. And Doug, Hana running, BW running on Hana, are you getting a lot of requests about that and interest from your customer base?
We are, and I think that, as Keith said, the ability to integrate the technologies in a cost-effective way for a customer really highlights what I said before, which is the ability to do things with your data that you just were not physically capable of doing before. The real-time analytics, the processing of very, very large volumes of data sets to ask questions that just were impractical to ask before. And really, SAP's platform, Hana built on BW, and now the integration of BusinessObjects with BW and the BI 4.0 platform just brings everything into alignment for that customer, and the ability to do that now in a cost-effective way, all the way from a small, medium enterprise, all the way up to the largest enterprises is special.
Last question, and I'll let you both off the hook. What would be your one piece of advice to a ASUG member watching this who is, about ready to go or thinking about it? Let's say they bought into the BI4, but just getting started. What's one thing you've learned that you'd like to pass on? Yeah,
I think my experience with any sort of software platform is find a good partner. It's one of those things that you have staff that you can educate on things, but something that they only do once in their life or an upgrade maybe once every couple of years, you're really not going to necessarily get the results and the efficiencies from that process. And so we've been very fortunate. I've worked with Mantis for a number of years with various companies, and they're a great business intelligence partner for us, trusted. They do the same process multiple times with multiple companies. And so I have a reliability there that I'm getting a good bang for my dollar as far as an upgrade or installation, and that they're bringing the knowledge to the table so that I go down the right path, right time, the first time.
Right.
And I don't have to backtrack.
Right. I hope you take him out to dinner for that tonight.
My counsel on that, in addition, is obviously, we believe in working with a partner like ourselves as well, but more importantly from a business perspective is look at this as a systematic approach to what you're doing to improve the business. Educate the users why you're making the change, what it's going to mean to them, educate them in terms of what they're going to be able to do, get them excited about it, right? The easiest way to get buy-in from somebody is to make them think it was their idea in the first place, right? So you get a business user excited about the platform, excited about, geez, go invest in some iPads and get people, sometimes that little hook is enough to drive the business motivation to really make projects successful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining. Appreciate you having you here.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Check out more videos on asogonline.com as well as asugnews.com. Thank you.